This is a Film Stories original podcast. We made this.
This is our special Fight the Future Minute podcast, and I am your host, Cortlan Waters Bartley. You're listening to our coverage of Minute 74 of the X-Files Fight the Future, which starts at 1 hour and 13 minutes on the timestamp, with our agents hugging in the hallway, and ends at 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 59 seconds, just after we realize that something is wrong. I'm here again with X-Cast patron and recurring guest, Cathy Glinski. Hi, Cathy.
Hi, Cortlan.
So, Cathy, the moment has finally arrived, and I know it would be so easy to jump straight to the end of this minute, but we're going to try to start at the beginning.
Oh,
Take
there's plenty
things
to talk about,
as they come. I feel like we are not alone in having been anxiously awaiting this minute 74, as it turns out.
I agree. I think that there's a whole contingent of people who love this show who've been waiting for this minute.
I agree. And so I think the thing that I would start with when I, was taking notes about this minute is that once again, Gillian Anderson is doing a lot of really great work. We can't really see Mulder's face. We see Scully's face in this sort of pan shot, and her expression that is still sort of surprised but also kind of changes a little. You can almost feel the mood of this minute changing like second by second. And I think part of that is because of her expressions, like the way Scully's expression shifts so much so quickly in this minute.
Yeah, when she moves in to hug him, she's just, what he's said to her in the previous minute is just sort of shocked her and sinking in, and she knows that she just can't step away from him, so she steps towards him to hug him, and look on her face as she does that. It's stunning. I do have to mention one other thing right here before we get any farther. The very first thing we see in this minute is Mulder's arm as it reaches around to hug her.
Listen, I think it looks like a very fulfilling hug.
Right.
Sometimes you get a hug and you're like, oh, okay, like fine. But then sometimes you get like a real, heartfelt hug. I think this is one of those.
I think so.
It certainly goes on long enough. So it was a lingering embrace.
It is.
You might call it a lingering.
I wrote in my notes, hugging and sighing, and it's just, it's lovely. They're both needing this.
Yeah.
They're needing it from each other and giving it to each other. It's just lovely.
So, Scully is surprised and overwhelmed, but she has this wonderful hug. And when they finally, break apart, we get a kiss on the forehead.
They have perfected this move. No one can do it as well as they can. Just convey so much emotion and feeling without being too romantic. It's really just the perfect gesture for them.
Yeah. You know what? This time around, all I could really think of was in Memento Mori, when Scully kind of gives Mulder in the hallway, because all of these things happen in a hallway.
Yes.
Scully kind of gives Mulder that speech about how, she's gonna figure this out for herself and she's coming back, and she gives her a little and he kisses her forehead. And here,
the flip side, yeah.
Yes, and here Mulder has given her a little speech and she kisses his forehead, and I just liked the symmetry of that in my mind as a viewer. I appreciate symmetry. Sometimes the X-Files struggles with that. Not always, but sometimes.
And when they do it so well.
Yes, really, really well. And that happened in this moment for me.
And I love how far he had to bend down for her to manage to kiss his forehead. He
It's
knew
so
it
true.
needed to happen. So
I mean, what are you gonna do?
yeah,
Maybe he's just really, Mulder is just really tall. We talk about Scully as being really short, but honestly, maybe Mulder is just tall.
he's tall. He's tall. I think a little both, which is what makes it so wonderful.
And so I think, yeah, like I said, we get this kiss on the forehead because this is the X-Files, and that is, what we get
Right.
often. And again, it's like there's a literal, visible shift between them, where it goes from this like mutual respect of their work together and how much, they rely on that to get through their work into something else.
Well, a kiss on the forehead, and then the foreheads touch, and then you see and you feel that shift.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly he grabs her cheeks, her face. No, something different is going to happen here. That's, yeah, you're right. You feel that shift. You feel it from, I need you in my work, to, I need you in my life, maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the shift, yeah.
Yeah. Which, again, I think, we talked about this in our previous minute. Scully has said, yes, I'm leaving the work, but no, I am not going to Utah,
Right.
So, like, I need you in my life, I think, is a fair kind of next step. At this point, we still think Scully has resigned from the FBI.
Right.
So, I don't know. Okay. I think that there are ways forward for them outside of, obviously, many years from now, we will learn that there are ways forward for them outside of the FBI. But still, I did notice as I was watching the commentary in this, Rob Bowman in the commentary puts all of the ownership for this shift on Mulder.
Huh.
He says that it's, from that Mulder's natural next step is to kiss her, and that's what Mulder intends to do. And he doesn't really mention Scully at all, at all, which I thought was really interesting. I have always felt like it's pretty mutual, but I guess maybe Mulder is the one, grabbing her face.
Well, okay, so he grabs her face, and she has this look of surprise in her eyes, and it's very clear that she's a little shocked, but as he leans forward, so does she. So I think that maybe, yes, it would be accurate to say that Mulder is making the decision to lean in first, but she's joining him on this venture. I would definitely not put it all on Mulder. She's not opposed to this shift.
Well, certainly she doesn't seem opposed.
Right. She seems, there's a definite look of surprise on her face.
I agree.
Which always sort of shocks me, and it stuns me into thinking what's going through her mind at this point. But she gets over that shock pretty quickly. she's going with it.
Yeah. And I listen, Cathy, you know this, and I feel like listeners probably know this by now too. I am a shipper. But I am so glad that this doesn't actually happen.
Oh, me too.
At this moment.
Oh, I am too. I think that was the best decision. I'm happy for how this played out. I'm not, they're not ready. I'm not ready for them to move any farther forward.
No.
And yeah.
No.
So.
Well, and actually, I think for me, the primary reason why I'm really glad about this is that even though I think that everything Mulder has said and everything Mulder has done is genuine and that he believes all, I think that it's all true. I just also think that this is happening because she just resigned.
Yes.
And I would hate for that to be the motivator here.
Right. Right. I don't want them to have that in their minds. That the only reason this happened is because he was trying to keep her there. I don't want that.
It's almost manipulative, and I am so glad that of all the things that we have hanging over this relationship, that for now is not going to be
exactly
the resolution here.
Yes, that when it happens, it will be for the right reasons, and this is not the right reason. So
I do think that this is a pretty progression.
Yes.
I think that Rob Bowman was totally right about that when he talks about that in the commentary, that this is just the natural next step after Mulder's amazing, I guess, little monologue to her in the previous minute.
Yeah, he just laid himself bare to her. He just really told her how important she is in his life. And clearly they do have these romantic feelings.
Yeah.
And it would be the natural next step. It would just be the wrong reason. So, it's perfectly that he would make this choice and she would make the choice as well. But
right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, like it's they're in a time of like heightened emotional everything, right?
Yes.
And they're both exhausted. They've been to Texas and back, and Scully hasn't even changed her clothes, as we established in a previous, like, there's just a lot happening. And so I think that it is perfectly genuine. I just am also really glad that it didn't actually go through with any of that.
Yeah. The moment. After, they have their foreheads touching. She just kissed his forehead and they press their foreheads together, and then Mulder grabs her face. It's like platonic gestures just aren't enough to convey everything we're feeling right now. And so the kiss makes sense.
Sure.
It's just, it just wouldn't have been, like you said, they've been through so much right now that this isn't going to be the best choice for them necessarily to go forward, but it's natural.
I do think too we should just give a little nod to the Scully slow tear. She's so good. Gillian Anderson is so good at somehow only crying exactly one tear.
I mean, true. Yeah.
It's just she's really good at it. And we get a single tear in this minute. Yeah. There's just a one. I think there's maybe two shots of just where we're looking at Scully and she's got that tear just hanging out, and she's really good at that. I just think every time I'm like, man.
Every time, it's perfect.
So good. Good for her.
And then we have the slowest lean in the history of cinema, I believe.
And the music too.
Yes.
It's so perfect to like build this, oh my gosh, like
attention.
What is about to happen? Is this real?
Yeah.
And it works so well.
So well. And Frank Spotnitz in the commentary talks about on opening night being in a theater with 1,000 people watching this and just people screaming as this was happening, as the bee sting happens. And he says he just realized the power of these characters when them not kissing could cause people in a theater to scream like that.
Right.
And it was such a powerful moment. This is the moment I remember most of seeing Fight the Future in the theaters, is this moment where everyone in the audience reacted to it. You couldn't, not react to that. It was just built up so perfectly, and then it didn't happen. Yeah.
Did people in your theater scream, Cathy? Was there yelling? Oh man. Yeah, I think I think I talked about this many minutes ago, when Tony and I were talking about when I saw the movie the first time. I mean, I didn't see it in the theater. I'm a much newer fan to the X-Files. I missed all of those things. And very rarely do I regret that I didn't watch it as it aired. But when I think about Fight the Future and like seeing it in the theater, that's a thing that I'm sorry that I missed. Because I think that was, I wish that I could have heard the people screaming. I mean, I heard them in my mind screaming in the theater, like thousands of people at once.
I think if we could fill a theater right now to watch it, we'd still get that reaction, even with fans who have seen this show,
even though we know
movie a million times. Yeah, I think
we know they're not going to kiss. It doesn't matter.
We know exactly. We could quote the dialogue along with Mulder, but we would still scream when the bee stung her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And something I think Chris Carter said in the commentary was that even though they didn't kiss, the intent was there, the will was there, and this is a point of no return for them. Which I think that's maybe overstating it a bit, because we did return back to status quo for quite a while after this movie, but we know that the intent and the will was there, and there's no going back from that. That's true. That was put out there for us.
At least for us. Yeah, who knows? Sometimes I don't know what Mulder and Scully were thinking as they like
Because
move forward from here, but
did they ever
we
talk
know.
about this again? Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think
interesting.
so.
Yeah, season 6. I love season 6. Don't get me. I mean, I love it, but boy,
Yeah.
there are some unresolved things.
Yeah.
And so, right, of course, we have this bee sting because this is the X-Files. And we all, and this is the thing that is so great because we know that there's a bee on Scully's coat.
Right.
It's established for us in a really specific shot while she's in her like committee hearing,
Right.
We know there's a bee. But at this moment as you're watching, I don't think anyone is like, there's a bee. It's coming.
Right.
Like we even know.
No.
They set it up for us. Like we know that it's there. But I don't think anyone was thinking that bee. It's here.
Yeah.
Don't forget about that bee. Nope. I already did. It's too late. I forgot about it because I'm distracted by this amazing scene in the hallway. And it returns with a vengeance.
Yeah. And I love the reaction, Mulder's reaction to this. He thinks he's done something wrong and he immediately apologizes.
He says he's sorry. Yeah, he says sorry. I wrote that down because it is oddly one of my favorite little moments, like where he's like, sorry. Like,
it's like, oh, darn it, I pushed my luck. And
yeah. Oh, it's a little heartbreaking.
It is. Yeah.
It's a little heartbreaking.
When they find the bee and he's just completely frustrated at that damn bee.
Yeah.
He is all of us.
I mean, certainly among our most notorious villains.
Yeah.
This lone bee been riding around in Scully's coat.
We really stopped them from doing something they weren't quite ready for, so we need to
Yes.
thank the bee.
Yes. All things happen for a reason, right? Yeah. Sometimes nothing. Nope, that's a different episode, though. We're not going to talk about that. I do think, though, hilariously, I like to imagine that bee, because that bee, it hung out with her all through the cornfield, all through the drive back, through the airport, on the airplane, through another airport, and back to the FBI. It has been crawling around in Scully's coat for a long time.
Probably napping under the collar for a while.
I guess. I don't generally think of bees as particularly stationary, But I do like to
think about bees. I just know that this bee stopped the kiss. That's all I know.
Well, he came a long way to do it.
Yeah.
He is a long way from his colony. So we have the bee sting. We find the bee, or Scully kind of pulls the bee out from her collar. And it's kind of our first indication at this point that something isn't right. And we don't get a lot of indication in this minute.
No.
But it's clear that it's not okay, whatever is happening.
Right.
This minute ends almost exactly via the timestamp when Scully straightens away. She sort of, because she's kind of slumped over into his shoulder a little bit. And we hear her say, like, something stung me, and he says, it must have gotten under your collar. And she straightens away, and she says, Mulder. And that's when this minute ends. I know.
Chills, doesn't it?
The timestamp, yeah. And so we get, I think, from her tone and also from the music, again, that something is just not quite right with what's happening now. And that we're probably not going to go back to the conversation.
No, we're not going to get the rest of that interrupted kiss, are we?
Right. No, we're not. Is there anything else in this amazing minute that we need to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we covered it.
Yeah, I think we've covered all of my things here. Cathy and I will be back together for one more minute when we learn a little bit more about this bee sting in the hallway. Thank you for being here, Cathy, and thanks everyone for listening. Until next time, as always, trust no one.
Elsewhere on We Made This. Pick a disc.
I think some songs also have like all those like interludes with like samples and spoken word as well. It kind of fits into like the shambolic, but in a good way, nature of it.
Yeah, I like the fact that no song ever really ends as such. They're all just like the guitars stop, and then there's a little bit of electronics to kind of lull you through into the next track and stuff like that. I like. It's an organic thing, isn't it? It's kind of like a DJ set where the dude is just obsessed with the one band and he keeps circling back to it.
Pull or pass?
I think it would be really weird if they tried to make the Fantastic Four something that had been around, but they didn't get involved in the Infinity War, you know?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think post-Infinity War, it kind of becomes curious how you introduce heroes in a long-standing, like if they were always meant to be there capacity. But
yeah, unless they have a film set in the 60s and they kill them off. I mean, they could do that, couldn't they?
Without a mouse.
When me and my wife got married in 2015, we booked our honeymoon to California and went to Disneyland in California. As soon as we decided we were going to do that, I'd always wanted to go there, but mainly for the rides, not for the Disney side of things so much. Yeah. And I started watching loads of... I know I've heard you mention before, like the Disney food blog, YouTube videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I will sit there when I'm bored. I'm either watching synthesizer demos, random music videos, or stuff about what food not to eat in Walt Disney World, which I've never been to, and I'm not that likely to go to in the near future.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.